Nah, turn that up. Young Max.
All right, shalom to elect Israel, to the hopeful elect Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Tinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, foreign Israelites, like the other nations, God calls four corners of the earth when to give all praise to Barak, Barak, Yahawashi. Got to give all praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Name of the Heavenly Father, everybody normally calls God. His true name in ancient Hebrew, which is in the Rawchaa, Qadash. His true name is Yahawah. Bahasham means in the name of Yahawashi is Holy One of Israel. Everybody ignorantly calls Jesus Christ a Negro from the tribe of Judah who was slain at the foundation of the earth for the salvation of the elect of Israel. Then you got 2/3 of the wicked Israelites here in America, Babylon the Great, and the other wicked Israelites scattered across the four corners of the earth that'll come back to the loins of the elect after the destruction. The Rawchaa Qadash is the Holy Spirit that has been bestowed upon the men. The Heavenly Father gave his only begotten Son out of the world to complete this work. So we always want to give double honors. Tell the apostles, great millstone, let us all to the truth. Been ordained by the Lord to teach the flock how to live, repent, pray, fast, show forth the Lord's righteousness and mercy, judgment, forgiveness and wrath to all as are part of the elect to the hopeful elect. Lord, when we part of that number, Lord, when be able to find those who fear in the name of the Lord, striving to show forth the Lord's righteousness every day to the best of their abilities, the judgment always comes to light. Zephaniah 3:5, it is not slack. 2 Peter 3:9 is unto a ring. 2 Ezra chapter 5, verse 42. Shabbat Shalom, all you say believers tune in here and on after. Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa Qadash, Atham. And we're just going to get into a part two, going into what I was going into yesterday about the Gadites, which are the so-called Native Americans. You know, some of the tribes that was actually out here in Oklahoma before it was taken over by Esau, even the so-called white man. So going into it, you know, we're coming into a new moon at sundown. sundown. And, we ended off the last Shabbat and, continuing to apply Yahawashi and what we do. So, going into this, Lord, when it's edifying to the flock, we spoke of in the last lesson how the Gadites came over here, how they got here. And, a lot of things, a lot of people don't know that, a lot of things that were set up here in America, Babylon the Great, Esau didn't know those things. He was taught those things. So going back to how to farm the three sisters is what they called it. Okay, the Gadites. And we're making basically going into the Wichitas, they were called, the language was the Kado. Okay. So going back down to where we're at, the Gadites taught Esau a farming system of corn, beans, and squash. This system keeps the soil fertile, maximizes food, and prevents crop failure. Europeans later copied this all over North America. So this is not just a system set up and just here in Norman, Oklahoma, where most of them are at, and all across Oklahoma. Okay. This is a system that was set up all over America. That's why we're telling you, how significant this place is. So medicine and healing, right? They taught herbal medicines, how to treat infections, how to stop bleeding. Because, back then, like even in the old Western movies, when you would see them do the shoot off, right? Because I was at work and I went on break, and there's this guy in the break room, and he was watching this old Western, and, they shoot off, and then one of them gets shot, and that's it. They dead because they didn't know how to stop bleeding or nothing. That stuff was taught by the Gadites, by Israelites to them. How to reduce fever, right? Much of early American medicine came from native knowledge. See? So you got some of these Edomites out here, like we seen that last video. He's all talking about how, like, they're the ones who made the earth a better place. No, they destroyed it. Our people already knew how to do a lot of stuff before they came over there. So trade networks, the Wichita show Europeans how to trade. Buffalo hides, salt, corn, stone tools, medicine plants. Norman sits on what used to be a major trade corridor. Okay. Right here where they got the Oklahoma Sooners and all that. That's this place used to be a major trade place for the Wichita Indians, the Gadites. So this is one thing that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people think that the Edomites made this. No, we made this. Diplomacy. Okay. We're the ones who showed them how to do democracy. Okay. Because they came from, monarchy. Okay. They didn't come over here and know how to do none of that. Okay. We taught them how to do that. How to make peace treaties. We sure taught them how to make them, but they sure taught us how to fucking break them. They broke almost all of them. How to exchange gifts. Okay. So even you got like, all these holidays they're doing, like a lot of these customs, they, took it and watered it down from what they learned from us. See how to recognize tribal borders. Without this, European settlers would have been killed on sight. So a lot of this stuff, because like the Seminole Indians, they weren't ever defeated by Esau, but after we taught them a lot of this stuff, they started attacking them. Okay, they started attacking Jake. So what happened to them in the 1800s, 1700s, and 1800s? So this Edomite was talking about being a colonizer. They were making the world a better place. How? This is what happened. This is what they did when they came over here. European diseases wiped out over 70% of the Wichita. We ain't even talking about them attacking them or nothing. Just being damn demons. The diseases wiped out everybody. U.S. government forced survivors into reservations. See? And you know why they came? Because, Jake, we still weren't following the laws correctly. because we didn't keep them we didn't keep them in our lands. We didn't keep them when we was in the land of Israel. So when we tried to leave and go somewhere else, the Lord sent an evil at us that we wouldn't been able to escape. Okay, that evil was Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. That was the evil, man. That was what got sent over here. It's Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 11. And you might read a little bit back because, you know, that's what the Lord told us that was going to happen if we didn't do the commandments. Like if we didn't do the commandments as a nation, the Lord was going to send evil after us, you know? So, see, we can go right here. We start at here. This is how all Israel was. But walked everyone in the imagination of their evil heart, which is their own mind. That's why you had, you know, they were worshiping different gods, you know, the fish or other stuff that wasn't, you know, our you know, we weren't supposed to put anything like that in our customs, man. You know. So the Lord sent them Edomites, man, and they sure did. They came today. So the Lord said unto me, proclaim all these words to the cities of Judah, right? Because Judah's a head tribe, which are the so-called Negroes. But this goes all the way down even to the Gadites. That's why they had this situation. You know, the northern tribe, you know, really fell first. You know, in a lot of ways. You know, they fell out of following the Lord, and they came over here. So what's going on right here? I don't know what just happened. Anyways, you said yet they obey not nor incline their ear, but walked everyone in the imagination of their evil heart, which is talking about your mind. I will bring and jack them up, man. And they brought us over here into slavery. I don't know why it's like that. Why has it got that out there? Hold on. I clicked something where it just continuing what I was saying. That's why when it says, you know, all the stuff that they did, they took all them Gadites they took out. It was because the Lord said, if the Lord had back to it, right? European diseases wiped over 70% of the Wichita. U.S. government forced survivors into reservations. Their land, including Norman, was taken. Yet anyways, they're still here today, and that's why we like tell you, like, a lot of our people, uh because our men made it with their women and stuff. Okay, so, and then vice versa. Just because you look like an Israelite doesn't mean you're necessarily an Israelite. You know, that's the parable of the wheat and the tares. You know, but the tares are actually talking about uh women of our people who made it with Esau, and Esau had babies from him. Had babies with him. They're actually Edomites. That's why we tell you, just because you look like a Native American, a Gadite, or a so-called black person, that doesn't mean that you're one of us. And then on top of that, like, another thing is like that's the problem with America. They've like taken things and tried to make them seem like they're cultural, and they're not cultural. Like being a Mo or something like that. That's not something cultural. You can't take that and be like, you need right for that. No, that's just you being immoral. Your sexual occupation has not again. But anybody can be, a Mo. Your rights, people out here tripping. Norman, Oklahoma is built on Wichita land, right? The city of Norman sits on what was once Wichita farmland. Wichita villages, Wichita trade routes. When you stand in Norman, you were standing on over 1,000 years of native civilization. And then, it asked, it said, what the villages look like, their spiritual beliefs, or what ancient sites are still hidden around Norman. I didn't really want to go into that too much, but that is a good topic to go into, kind of know a couple things. But it's not nothing too big. It's more going into the darker history of this place and why you don't want to be somebody who's like, oh, I want to go see the OU game. And like, we don't, all this stuff is tied to our people being murdered for it. So that's why a lot of us, we're not really interested in doing anything here but the work. And then, we whatever, some of us got little small businesses or whatever, but a lot of us don't really get involved in anything. Slaughtered. So it says, I asked, who is the actual man Norman, and what are some of the most wicked things he ever did? So it says, this is one of the cases where a city's name hides a much darker history. See? City with Norman, Oklahoma is named after a real man. And we know in Psalms 49, this is how you know this guy was an Edomite. Pull it up over. Sick. Psalms 49:11, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. See? This is why they do it like this. Okay? It says, he was a U.S. railroad surveyor and land runner in the 1800s. He was remembered for helping open Indian land to so-called white people settlement. Okay? But here's what almost nobody tells you. It was not of a sense. He was what was called a Sooner, a person who entered native land illegally before it was open. So you got all these people out here who be saying Boomer Sooner. What they're saying is that they went in there and slaughtered our people. You got damn Gadites actually doing this shit, like honoring this shit, honoring this football team that's literally tied to their families getting slaughtered. We tell you, like, a lot of this stuff you don't really need to be dealing with, Jake, because it's got dark ass history behind it. Our people getting murdered because they used to try to call the Native Americans, they try to call the Gadites Redskins. So you don't want to be out here. That's what that baseball team called the Redskins, and the Gadites were saying it was racist to take it down, because it's tied into our people being skinned alive and stuff, man. That stuff is wicked what they did to our people. It says these people were often armed, violent, backed by railroad companies, and supported quietly by U.S. officials. See, Norman was one of them. So this is how they usually get hired. America Babylon the Great, they basically hired him to go in there and do that stuff and let him. So he trespassed in the native land. Before the land run of 1889, the area around Norman was unassigned lands, still legally Native American territory. Norman entered it illegally, surveyed it anyways, right? Because they got to, they want to measure the land and see what they can build on it and stuff. Marked town sites before it was open. This helped steal land from Wichita and Caddo peoples. He helps to help trigger, chaos in the land run, right? So by placing a sign reading Norman on the prairie before the run, he attracted armed settlers. He had to fight for it, encouraged them to rush and claim land, right? Say, go get your own shit. I'm already here, right? Create shit. That's what Esau does, man. Take peace from the land and they kill one another. That's what it says in Revelation 6 chapter about the red horse, because the red horse is talking about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, because he came out red, right? Then it talks about the red dragon, which is basically the Roman Empire, ruled by who? Edomites. This is plain, man. So it says Norman worked with railroad companies whose job was to what? To split native land into parcels, sell it to. See? This was not accidental. It was federal policy. See? So computers just making all this not connecting anyways. He helped erase the native presence by creating a so-called white town site. He covered over ancient Wichita villages, but you see, he said that some of the places is still kind of hidden here, where, like, we might go look them up. In a second, go see where it said that. But we'll go look up both of those. He helped dispossess native tribes, right? Going into, he buried native history under buildings. So a lot of this stuff is literally underground. Like a lot of Gadite, Wichita, Native American history is under us right now. Okay, made it seem like the land was empty. That's what he'll cover all your stuff up, make it seem like it was never there. That is how colonization works. So I asked, was he personally murdering people? I didn't ask that, but it made it a bulletin because the way I asked it. If you ask it the right way, it'll give you a whole bunch of different things that it goes around your question. It says, was he personally murdering people? There is no historical proof that Abner Norman murdered anyone with his own hands, right? Because they weren't counting that. They weren't counting all the millions of people they killed. Real quick, I'm about to try to switch over to my I'll try to switch over to my hotspot real quick. Try to connect my hotspot because this computer just lagging real bad right now. The internet is. All right. Lord willing, it's worked up. One second. This thing messed up. Hold on. Okay. Back to it. Let's try this one more time. I had to switch back to my other Wi-Fi real quick. Just keep going off. Can do. Let's make sure there ain't too much stuff running on. Okay. Lord, want to work a little better. Okay, so I went on ahead and looked up the Wichita's, their spiritual beliefs, and show you this is some of those things that they believed in. It's the reason why, the Lord allowed Esau to come over there and do that. So it says, and then Norman, that history runs far older than the state of Oklahoma itself. So the first thing we're going to look at is what the Wichita, the Gadites believed about the universe and what is still buried beneath Norman today. So it says, see, this is what they believed in. The Great Spirit, Kenny Caucus or something. Like, that ain't the Most High. They believe one supreme creative force called the Kenny Caucus, which is the maker of all things. No, the maker of all things is Yahawah. See? So they went over there and started worshiping false gods. He was not pictured as a human. He was light, wind, motion, time, and life. Everything that existed came from him. So they stopped believing in the Most High and they started believing in this bullshit. That's why they're in some shit. Right? The sun was sacred. They believed the sun was the visible eye of the Creator. They don't say nothing like that. The Lord said in the scriptures, He made lesser light, which is the sun, and the greater light, which is the sun, and then life flows from light. Plants grow by divine design. Humans live because the Creator shines on them. Right? They didn't call on Yahawah. So what got them jacked up? The villages were built around solar alignment. The buffalo was holy. It was, corn was sacred. Read dreams, speak to spirits. And what does it say about the scriptures? It said, don't be summoning familiar spirits. Don't be calling up the dead. They was doing shit like that. Right? Predict weather, foresee danger, heal sickness. They weren't prophets. You know what I'm saying? And that used to be the order, man. Even in Issachar, they had, they had certain men they could discern times and signs, but when they started worshiping and all these other guys, they started getting involved in what archaeologists call Plains Village and civilization zones. Grass house villages. Wichita built a lot of that stuff got basically destroyed and buried and built over. You know, and most of these villages was along the corridor. See, that's why you have like over here. There's a Robinson Street. That's what they built it over. Okay, they just named it Robinson. Crazy. You know, they built it over this stuff. Buried cornfields. Under Norman soil are farming furrows, storage pit, and clay seed jars all over the place. OU campus is built over ancient Wichita farmland. So exactly all that. That's where all the farmland was at. Now it's a football stadium, a damn coliseum. So big grounds. Many objects, corn, these graves still. See? That's why the construction crews sometime quietly stop work. You know, trying to do some moment of silence or something. You know, they be doing that bullshit. That shit don't mean something. You just shouldn't have destroyed that shit. Sacred stone site, flint quarries, prayer stones, vision quest spots. You know why this matters. The land under Norman is not empty land. It is buried civilization, a spiritual landscape, a soul pier they recovered over. You know? So just show you like this is what Esau does, man. Deportation, talking about deporting elite. You talking about? Y'all motherfuckers wasn't supposed to be here. But since we sinned against the Lord, he allowed them to come steal Jake's heritage, man. And put a damn football stadium there. And that's what that Edomite said when you see the video. He said, yeah, man, white people did that touchdowns and shit. Fuck your touchdown. I'd rather just not have 70% of my whole civilization wiped out because y'all didn't know how to take a fucking shower. So, hey, man, that's it. That's all we're going to deal with. Shalom to elect Israel, hopefully elect Israel, Hebrew Israelites. Barak that was shot. Double honor to those and apostles of great millstone. Let us all to this truth. Peace and blessings to the elect. Lord, when there's edifying to the flock. Wa Abba Bal, Kwam Yasarala, Shabbat Shalom.